Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Malhama and the Mahdi. This is the second episode of the Imam Mahdi as healed healer. In the last episode, we were discussing the concept from academic realms of the healed healer found within shamanism, within various religions, of someone who has to go through a physical and emotional healing process, a crisis, in order to come into wholeness and purity. And then once they have gone through the healing process, then they have an ethical and moral responsibility to be of benefit to their community and to share the insights and the trainings that they have received about herbal medicines, about incantations or adhkar, prayers, whatever it might be, in order to help others to come out of their physical crisis, their physical disabilities, their emotional crises, their spiritual crises, because ultimately everything is always has a spiritual dimension to it. Everything within the physical. So therefore, if we want to address a spiritual problem, we always must address the physical. So if you want to be spiritually mature and spiritually enlightened, it's also very important to go through a physical bodily cleanse and detoxification process, whereby you see clearly what kind of foods and foodstuffs you're putting into your mouth and onto your absorptive organs like your skin, into your mouth, into your ears, into your eyes, and begin to switch out the unhealthy and the toxic and replace it with healthy and pure organic foods. So you move away from the synthetic and artificial and refined to the pure, the natural, the organic. And as you go through the purification, then you begin a nutrification. And this has spiritual expressions as well. So the healed healer goes through this transformative process. And I also discussed the great physicians, the great healers within the prophetic tradition and within the prophetic context. So I wanted us to think about how the Imam Mahdi and any healed healer has to utilize a medical diagnostic framework in order to be of the greatest benefit possible. Because if the Imam Mahdi is going to be a just man and behave justly, then it's important that he sees reality the way that it is. Because I would argue that he is a man of expansive heart, expansive vision, and expansive mind and insight. He's gone through a transformative process, as should we. Now, when it comes to this diagnostic framework, what we need to do is we recognize that there is a problem. It could be a physical problem. It could be an emotional problem. It could be an energetic problem. It could be a spiritual problem. We need to find out what that problem is and name it. We need to name it. We need to see exactly what it is. So this is where Iqra comes in. Muslims, we are called to be the people of Iqra. We are to read the outer reality and the inner reality as accurately as possible. And this is something that has been sorely neglected within the Ummah, and now is the time for us to come out of that and to rectify the situation. It's never too late. And this is the time to become the people of Iqra as it was always meant to be. This is embedded within the Quran. This is not just a message to the historic Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. This was a message to you individually, to me individually, to us collectively. We are to be the best readers of reality. That is why when we do this, we will automatically become the greatest scholars that the world has ever seen. We will have a golden age, guaranteed, inshallah. But we have to begin right here by reading everything accurately. We are in a serious crisis right now. So we need to see what's the real problem. What are the symptoms of the problem? What are the roots of the problem? Once we can see the symptoms and the roots of the problem, now we can name it. We can diagnose what the problem is. We can give it a proper name. And we can see the physical aspects to it, the emotional aspects, the energetic aspects, the spiritual aspects to the problem and its symptoms and its roots. And we can begin to work toward uprooting the problem. and reversing the symptoms. So what we need to do is, once we have a diagnosis, we also need a prognosis. We need to see if we continue down this path of thinking, speaking, and behaving in negative, toxic, imbalanced ways, what will be the end result? Will it result in hellfire? Will it result in the destruction of our bodies, the destruction of our marriages and our relationships, the destruction of our ecosystems? Now, when we're doing prognosis, now we also have to think, is it possible to come out of this misery? Can we prevent hellfire? Can we prevent the destruction of marriages and family relationships and our society and the destruction of ecosystems? Now, so we have a prognosis. Now we've got a positive prognosis. Say there is cancer that will be terminal if things are not changed. So if you have a terminal cancer diagnosis, do you go and take poisons and poison your cells and poison your body? This is what people have been teaching. This is counterintuitive and highly problematic because it also destroys the water supply and the ecosystems. It can harm spouses who are taking in poisons into their bodies. So what we need to do is we need to purify. So what we need now, this brings us into, once we have the diagnosis, the prognosis and the diagnosis, we need the prescription. The prescription, these are the behaviors that we need to engage in order to come out of our illness, out of our dis-ease, out of our instability, out of our brokenness, out of our imbalance. So this would be where we change our behaviors. So this is the Toba process and Tazkiyah process, where we turn away from anything that is unhealthy, toxic, sinful, and wrong. Anything that is unhealthy and toxic, we remove the inputs in thought, word, and deed toward self, and the outputs in thought, word, and deed toward others. And we replace them with that which is better. So we turn away, so it's the Toba process, we turn away from the unhealthy and we begin to replace the unhealthy, the toxic, and the sinful with that which is pure, organic, purifying, ethical, energizing. And we're going to purify our body and purify our mind. We're going to change our foods to the most pure, natural. We want to live as garden-like as possible. This is very important, to live as garden-like as possible. This is part of any prescription now, period. We have to change our food. We have to change what substances we put onto our body, what kind of substances we absorb in our environment, into our nose, into our lungs, through our lips, on our tongue, on our skin, through our hair. We need to change our inputs and outputs. So this is the prescription. Once we go through a healing crisis and begin to reverse the process and the symptoms begin to reverse, sometimes they will come back and it'll seem worse because it's always darkest before the dawn as we go through our purification. And this is for the Imam Mahdi has to go through this. We all have to go through this as we heal, as we become whole. Now, once we are in a more whole state, now we begin prevention. We want to prevent a recurrence of the illness, and we want to protect others. Actually, the protection, the whole entire path, we don't want to spill out toxicity and negativity toward others. Sometimes it will happen accidentally and inadvertently. That is unethical and wrong, and we need to prevent it. We always need to, the prophetic path, the ethical system actually, whether you've heard it or not, it's about non-harming. It's always non-harming. So we need to prevent harm, and where we can't prevent harm, we minimize harm to the greatest extent possible. This is justice. We must behave. The healing process, including the protection and the prevention, is always to minimize harm and to protect ourselves and protect others. We want to bring others out of misery. So, and then once we go through this process, now we have to pass on what we know. We have to share our insight and our experience. If you are dealing with cancer or any kind of an illness, one of the very best things you can do for yourself is to research healing stories. Talk to people in your circles and find out who's healed from the same kind of illnesses. What did they do? The other thing is, anytime you have an illness, go get multiple diagnoses, multiple opinions on it, and do not accept negative as your answer. And if anybody's recommending anything that will toxify and harm your body or your mind, then look for something else. Always look for that which is going to provide you with the most dignity, and it needs to be ethical, it needs to be pure, it has to have integrity and dignity to it. You do not want to lose any more dignity in your healing process than necessary. We are all going to, in our healing process, we're going to go through certain indignities, humiliation, so to speak. But this is all part of the spiritual path in the cleansing process. So we need to minimize that for ourselves and others. We never want to be a burden upon others, and we want to minimize the burden and the suffering of others and ourselves. So anyway, this medical diagnostic framework is very beneficial, and you can apply this to anything in life. Always chunk it up and look at it, break it down to bite-sized chunks so that you can actually, I'll break this down in a porridge hadith video where we take, like where I'll break it down in another way. I call this prophetic problem solving. And we want to be excellent prophetic problem solvers. We want to cultivate our critical faculties and our intuitive apparatus to the greatest extent possible right now. And so we go through the holistic Toba, the holistic Tazkiyah process, and then we want to go Tawakkul. We want to be utterly dependent and in surrender to truth and go egoless flow state and become water. We are walking water beings, but we want to have the purest, most excellent resonance within our water. And we want to be of benefit to others. We want to provide purification for others. We want to provide hydration and nutrification and benefit to others. So we need to go through our healing process, and all of us need to become whole makers, healed healers, inshallah, and shift to this healing paradigm. Only then will justice be possible. We cannot keep doing the same toxic, broken behaviors and expect a different result. That's mental illness. I believe I'm paraphrasing an ancient Chinese proverb here. But this is very true. It's a truism. It holds great, tremendous truth. So may we all come out of our miseries. May we all be made whole. May we all heal. May we all be made upright, readied. And may we be people of justice, people of insight, people of purity, ethical and energetic purity. May we be inspirations to others. Until next time, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.